back to another episode of Technology for Independence with Christopher Cooley. Christopher's guest today is Blake Frisk. He's a research and developer of different communicative devices that assist disabled and specifically autistic individuals. Chris, always a pleasure talking with you.
It's always a pleasure to be here, Patrick. I was introduced to Blake and we met up online and talked a little bit about the research and different things that he's doing and pilot program helping individuals get the technology that they need. And I really like the idea of different things that he's doing for our communities here in Ohio. So I thought it would be awesome to bring him up and talk to him about what he's doing and how he's working for people with disabilities and what he has done so far. So Blake, welcome. Thank you for coming and, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
No problem. Thank you for having me. So a little bit of background about myself. So as Patrick mentioned, I currently do research on the design and development of communication tools, specifically called AAC, Augmentative and Alternative Communication. These are tools for anybody with a communication disability. And right now I'm really focusing in on adults with a communication disability, and even more specifically, autistic adults with a communication disability. I got my start in this field by working as a K-12 educator. So I went to Bowling Green State University, got bachelor's degrees in education from there. I went and worked as a middle school, high school teacher for a while. I also worked as a direct support professional, a DSP, for adults with autism. And so I got to see, firsthand what it was like from, both the home side and the school side, what it was like to do assistive technology and just to kind of live life with a disability or live life with someone who has a disability. And so I knew that I really enjoyed this work and I wanted to, continue and learn more about assistive technology. So I went back to Bowling Green. I went there a few times, got a master's degree in special education and a master's degree in computer science, where I focused all on the design and implementation of assistive technology. And I learned from that not only did I enjoy, using the existing tools, I also really liked making new tools and doing kind of that foundational research to inform the design of new tech. So I decided to go on and get a PhD, and I am currently doing that at Michigan Technological University up in Houghton, Michigan, which is in the Upper Peninsula. And I'm doing that in computer science, and all of my work is, again, on the design and development of AAC and assistive technology.
So you know that a lot of technology and other communication devices is pretty expensive. What's your thought on that, and how could you help in that department?
During my master's, decided to take the research that I was working on, and I actually made my own startup out of it that ran for about 4 years. And then I shut it down for a lot of reasons, and most of them were good reasons. But when we had the startup, I had an AAC system that I had designed, and we were trying to get it covered under the waiver process. And oh my goodness, it was so difficult. We never actually ended up succeeding because it was very circular. They were like, you need to have people who are using your system to get it covered under waiver, but it can't be covered by waiver until you have people who are using it. And you need people to use it to get it covered, but it can't be covered until people are using it, and just on and on. So it could be really difficult to get a new thing under the waiver system, which is how not everybody, but how a lot of people are able to afford their access to assistive technology. So that is a barrier that I think can really hamper is the word that I will use, more assistive technology being available. So I think that, if there were some more conversations to be had with, the people who run the waiver process and then the people who make assistive technology and who make the new stuff as well as the old stuff, to maybe make more of a collaborative process to kind of reduce that barrier.
So do you have individuals or parents that are interested in what you're doing?
So right now my work is all academic. I'm not doing any like actual industrial applications that will be available quite yet. A big part of that is because I am actively working on my PhD, and they don't really like it when you try and sell stuff as you're doing research for it. That's a bit of a conflict of interest. But right now, the research that I'm working on is designing new communication systems for autistic adults to better support social and community engagement. Because, having come from a K-12 background, I saw that, we get our kids and we get them, rocking and rolling with all sorts of support services and assistive tech and stuff at home, stuff at school. But then they grow up, they age out, and the services take a big nosedive. And they're just reduced, and it can become harder to provide support for adults. And so I'm really focusing right now on supporting adults. And so as I've been, talking about my latest research in that area, some people have been like, yes, we really need this, and we are very excited to try and, participate in this research. But I always need more. So I'm happy to take new participants.
So have you heard of the remote support teams that are out there in a home?
Yes. So I have met with a few different remote support people, both individual, specific companies, as well as some county boards who provide remote support services as part of just their county board services. I think that is a fantastic tool to help increase independent living. We have all of this smart technology. We have these smart homes and these smart cameras and these smart doorbells and smart plugs. I think it's wonderful that we can use that to provide, remote support. So that way, if someone says, hey, I need help with this, they have all of these devices that can be, controlled, operated from people at a distance. I think it's wonderful to help maintain independence.
So in your research, what have you really found lacking for adult autistic individuals?
So far, what I have found has been not a lot, which by that I mean there's not a lot of research that I found. There has been some research. Obviously, I don't exist in a total vacuum, and I don't want to diminish the work that has been done. There has been some good work done. There's just not a lot of it, especially when it comes at the intersection of all the stuff that I do. So intersection of autism research, of disability studies research, of communication research and AT research. There's been very little done at the intersection point of all of those different fields. So there is so much that can be explored for, autistic adults, communication supports, social community engagement. So it just needs to be done. There's just a wide open field ready for harvest.
What areas do you feel people need to concentrate on in helping the autistic individuals?
I will preface by saying that I have a little bit of a bias. I am what's called a qualitative researcher, which means that I collect a lot of stories and go talk with people and do in the field work. I do some quantitative research, like do some studies where I collect data, run all this numerical analysis, statistical analysis. That's not the majority of what I do. So with that bias, I think we need a lot more of that story collecting. We really need to involve the actual people, actual autistic adults in the research from the get-go. A lot of what I'm trying to do right now is what's called participatory design, which is exactly that, including the actual people who will be using our tools in the research from the beginning. And until we have those stories, those real life lived experiences informing our research, at best, we can be making guesses from secondhand information, like from parents and caretakers, which is good data, but we need to do more to include the actual people themselves in the research.
Do you have personal contact with autistic individuals that has led you to do more research and development?
How I kind of got started, to circle back to a little bit of my history, is I worked for 13 years as a DSP. And the entirety of that 13 years, I spent, I did some other work, but I worked with one family for that whole 13 years, as well as some of the other families I serviced. It started because he and I, their son, went to high school together. And so his parents were looking for someone to meet him when he got off the bus until they got home from work a couple hours later. That was how I got started working in the disability field. And I spent 13 years working with them that blossomed from just, a professional working relationship to we are very close family friends. He has a communication disability. He does not use his natural speech for communication. He has some manual signs that he does to communicate, but it's a lot of just getting to know his body language. So I got to, for over 13 years, because like I said, now we're family friends. I don't work for them anymore, but we are still very close. So for, oh my gosh, almost 15, 20 years, I have seen firsthand exactly what it's like to have a family member who has a communication disability. He is also autistic. And so I got to see what that was like. And that really has helped me to stay grounded and inspired me to continue to stay grounded by going out and doing exactly what I said, working hands-on with people who are, right now it's autistic people. In the future, it might be a different population. But yes, my goal is to always stay grounded by going out and actually working hands-on. So like tonight, after this, I'm volunteering with Bittersweet Farms here in Northwest Ohio to go and work with some autistic community outings to try and support that social and community engagement that I'm researching.
You've indicated that you've had personal contact and some successful outcomes with individuals. Are there some areas that you have seen in your research that people need to be aware of so that we can continue to get better in communicating with the autistic?
There is an adage that I have heard that says, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. There are going to be some similarities, but in reality, every person is unique. I think we all know that every person is unique. That also carries over to every person with autism has a unique expression of autism. And so we can absolutely address commonalities in research, and we can look for those commonalities. That's a big part of what we do. But we do also have to remember, both on the research side, and I am absolutely guilty of this, and also when it comes to the practice side, of which I am also guilty, that there is going to be a lot of individualization that is needed to make, something truly work for a person. I think that any assistive tech we design will only ever get us, 80, 90% of the way there. There will never be a 100% perfect solution, because then we would basically have to be designing assistive tech for each and every individual who uses it. So sometimes it can be easy to, get lost in the broader themes that we try to look for as researchers, that we sometimes forget that there are individuals at the other end. And it can be useful to remember that every once in a while, myself included.
I know that a lot of communication is hard because, like myself, I am, legally deaf, and I have a speech impairment, and I grew up in a mainstream school. I didn't have anything to help me. I had to read my teacher's lips. I had to focus on facial expression, all my classes, and be able to graduate. Now have video phone for the deaf with the interpreters, be able to communicate if I need them, ordering something or making a doctor's appointment, or even talking to someone in my family or friends that, that video phone I could turn on phone. They have an app that I can use the video phone with. And so that, a great communication. And I do use remote support, and they help me with communication. And I can understand what you're coming from, because communication is a big deal. Back in the day, parents and doctors would hold their individuals back and keep them defined and not let them outside, not let them go anywhere. Because number one, they were embarrassed to have a child like that or an individual like that. And so, now technology is coming out pretty well. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about AI? I know that AI could be expensive to use sometimes. So what is your thoughts on AI and how AI could help Can it help individuals with communication?
So that's a little bit of a tricky question, just because there's still so much to learn about AI. So again, a disclosure, this is something that my advisor and I are actively working on, is how to incorporate AI into communication tech to try and, make it easier to use, faster to use, all that kind of stuff. And something that we talk about is that we want to make sure that AI, because AI can absolutely help with this stuff, but we want to make sure that when we are building and incorporating AI, that we do so in an appropriate and ethical way. So, like for example, in just broader AI research, there are some problems with data collection. So you have these big companies that are just taking your data and using it to train their AI models. And it's a big problem. So when we are talking about making AI and integrating AI into assistive tech, we want to make sure that we are doing it ethically, that we're not creating a way to steal the data of disabled people to make systems better, because yeah, we do need data, but we want to make sure we do it appropriately. So those are like some of the issues that come up, just to name one. But that being said, if it's done well and appropriately, AI can absolutely be a beneficial thing. There's still plenty of room to grow with how we do this, and there's still a lot to learn, and there are still plenty of legal ramifications that need to be thought through. But once we can make it through those kind of, hey, it's a brand new tech, let's figure out the boundaries of this, both technologically, legally, ethically. Once we know those boundaries, this is absolutely something that can, make an impact. So for example, my advisor, he does this thing called natural language processing. And so like he works on like those, if you have a cell phone, how it has the word predict and autocorrect when you're typing a text message. He works on taking that kind of stuff and applying it to these AAC systems. So that way, if you're doing like row column scanning, or if you're doing eye tracking, or even single switch users. He has an AAC system he's developed for single switch users, which is really cool. He integrates this natural language processing and text prediction to help make those systems work faster, to increase rate of communication, because communicating with assistive tech can, let's face it, can be really slow sometimes. And he also tries to make them have better, more appropriate predictions, which is a project that he and I are working on right now that I don't want to speak too much on because we don't want to spill the beans too early. But yes, it is something that is actively being done, but there are those caveats of doing it ethically and appropriately.
There are many types of autism. One definition does not by any means fit everyone. Are there technologies out there that on an overall basis really help individuals who are autistically defined?
So this is where I'm going to be disappointing, because I have to fall back to that. If you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism. What works well for one person might not work well for another. So, I could make a broad statement that says, cell phones help, but that's not true for everybody. So that really doesn't have a good answer, because it's just so unique. Everybody is so unique. So I would say that there are classes of tools that could help. So for example, noise canceling headphones could help a lot of people. If they have, a sensory issue, like noises that are too loud, that is a form of assistive tech that could help a lot of people. Will it help everybody? No, but it's something that you can be aware of. So when it would come to assistive tech, I would say know what type of tools are available, and then see, just mix and match them if you can, to see what combination works best to support you. Is it communication support? Is it medication support, which could be, through smart pill dispensers or remote supports? Is it going to be smart home stuff? Like your Google Homes or Nest Homes or whatever they're called now. Your Amazon Alexa is it smartwatches and smartphones to help you, manage schedule and routine and things like that. These are all options that are out there that will help a lot of people, but there is no, I would say, no broad stroke, this will help everybody.
Suppose you acquired your PhD and you are now ready to work on different goals that assist autistic individuals.
Mhm.
Suppose that there are a number of investors who would like to help you develop tools that would assist the autistic individuals. What broad areas would you be working in first?
My research, like I said, is a lot about this communication tech. I really enjoy working with this communication tech. It can target specifically, the autistic population. It could be a broader population of just anybody with a communication disability, but I really, really enjoy working in this AAC space. So I have all sorts of ideas of, what else could be done? Designing tools for, work support and job skills, designing AAC for, different types of communication and different types of environments. That being said, there is plenty that could be done in other spaces. I would love to hear what those other spaces are, but for right now, I just really enjoy working in the AAC space. Now, again, that being said, I try to make sure that I stay what I call grounded. That I'm like, let me go be grounded in the real world. Let me go, talk with people. Go, I'm in Northwest Ohio right now, so go talk with, different county boards, places like Bittersweet, the Ability Center in Toledo, different orgs like that. Let me go volunteer with them, talk with people, because I could have all the ideas in the world, but let's say 7 out of 10 of the ideas that I have are things that the actual people don't really want. They're like, that's not a real concern for us. So I can have all the ideas in the world, but ultimately I want to and plan to verify everything I do with the actual target populations by doing that qualitative work, because I don't want to do stuff just because I think it's cool. I want to do stuff because it's needed and useful. So to again give a little bit of a cop-out answer, I love working in the communication space, but ultimately I want to do what is wanted or needed by whatever population I'm working with.
I know that you came on our team meeting, Ohio Tech Ambassador Program team meeting. What did you think about that meeting? A lot of individuals have different varieties of different tech and have different other things that they need help with. What did you think about our meeting that you came on?
I loved it. I thought it was one of the coolest things because, again, it goes back to that idea that I keep repeating over and over again because it's my professional mantra of it's actual people. There were deaf people, blind people, autistic people. There were actual people who use this stuff on the everyday. There were also researchers and DSPs and other support staff, but I loved the fact that it was not just us disability adjacent people. We actually had the real life voices of people who live with a disability and who have it and are able to say, this is what life is like for me, and here's everything I can do with all of this different tech. So I think that is just, I love the idea and I love the chance that I got to meet the people, and I look forward to trying to do more stuff with that group.
And you said something about a pilot program in our team meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and how individuals can be involved?
Yeah, so right now I am doing that qualitative work of trying to get the real life stories of autistic adults who use communication supports. And so I am running an online focus group. It is a paid research opportunity. So it's an online focus group that lasts for 5 weeks, and it is text-based and it's asynchronous. So that way, if you have to take time to compose messages, that is totally available. And it's just going to be asking a series of questions about, what life is like using AAC to communicate in social and community settings. That will then lead into a design study where we work on building up a new communication system from scratch with autistic adults and a couple other support staff involved from the very beginning. So if people want to get involved with that, they can email me, and I'll give you my email address to, accompany this video. And I would love to get some people involved.
So if they come on and be part of this program, pilot program, they're going to get paid. Are you able to tell us how much they would get paid for?
Yeah, so it's a 5-week study, and you will get paid $40 for every week you participate. So for a max of $200 for the focus group study. And then the participatory design study, that's a follow-up, will also be paid, and those details will come when we get closer to that.
Is that for anyone that have multiple disabilities?
Yep. So as long as they, have autism, and we will not ask for diagnostic paperwork, but as long as they, have autism and that they use communication support, so they use AAC or some other form of communication support, and that can be in a full-time or a part-time capacity, because we know that not everybody uses AAC all the time. Sometimes it's just with new people or new situations or loud and crowded situations or whatever.
This is Technology for Independence with Christopher Cooley. We're talking with Blade Frisk, who is a research and development individual working with individuals that are disabled, specifically autistic individuals. Take a look on the description for more information about that study. For Chris Cooley, thank you, Blade.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.